How about this guy? One quarterback to another. Kyler Murray, we're talking Jake Plummer now. Arizona Cardinal legend, Tempe legend, former Sun Devil. How we doing? Super Bowl week.
Good.
Yeah?
It's Super Bowl week in Las Vegas. What the heck are we doing here, man?
Are you a big
I thought
Vegas
we weren't
guy?
supposed to mix gambling with the NFL, but now it's like, here, we'll serve it to you in real easy. You can walk over here, place a bet, walk over here, and go watch the game.
Are you a big
and if
Vegas
you see
guy?
a player, tell them, am I what?
Big Vegas guy?
When I was playing, we'd come out here, but I haven't been here in a long time. So, no.
Okay.
Not a Vegas guy.
So you don't gamble? You don't play card games or anything like that? Or
No.
okay.
I mean, I'll play some card games once in a while. Play speed with my kid, where you. But other than that, man, gambling's so weird. Like you take your money and it's gone, or you bring back more. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd rather buy like some tacos and a good soda or something like that.
I love it. I love it.
Jake, we were fortunate enough for you to have sat down with our guy Craig Morgan. You had a great one-on-one with Craig.
That was a great interview.
He's a lot more skilled than we are as far as asking questions.
This is amateur
We're
hour.
just like, hey, what do you like to do in Vegas, Jake? And he's asking you.
Yeah, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot of noise here. I'm sure if you guys could focus it.
But what did you appreciate about your time with Craig? And I highly encourage people to check out the interview on our YouTube page.
It was just a good setting, and knowing going into it that it was going to be more of a deeper dive where I wasn't on a time frame, or if I was talking about something and I was going and flowing, that there was going to be no cutting me off, letting it happen organically, and also Craig's, he's a seasoned vet. He's been in the business for a long time, so asking good questions too. And, I've done some podcasting and asked questions before, and there's a real art form to it where you listen, because you also want to think about what you may want to ask next, or some topic may come up and the interviewer or interviewee still keeps talking. Mm-hmm. Wait, can I remember that? So there's an art form, and it takes practice. And so, I enjoy it. Anytime I get to share, things that are personal to me and experiences with people that I love, and then what I'm up to now, it's a great time.
Well, what is it? I mean, it seems like every time you run in with your old kind of stomping grounds in Phoenix and Arizona, it's Rose Bowl. It's getting the Cardinals back to the playoffs. It's your time spent on the gridiron. What is it part of your story that you're excited to kind of tell people about that you aren't always asked about out of the big things that in Pat, and everybody always talks about Pat, and I'm sure you love to talk about him.
Yeah, it's interesting because life can go so many ways, and what I did to make these decisions as a young kid to go to ASU.
Yeah.
And that really stemmed from Bruce Snyder, who was the only coach that said, you are going to be an integral part of our national championship team. National champion? What? I'm going to go down there. And so that driving me there at a young age at 18, making that decision with my family around, but they left it up to me. Mm-hmm. And then further on to just keep kind of going down where my path goes. Like, I think what people don't understand is I didn't plan this journey. This was not planned. This is just happening. I had a dream and a goal and an ambition to play in the NFL and win a Super Bowl. Well, now that was over and I'm 31 years old, whoa, that's 18 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, wait a sec, I got to ASU when I was 18. So, like, what have I done since my career playing? I wasted some time. I don't say wasted, but I didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah.
Just kind of got back to doing whatever the hell I felt like. Someone would ask me, what do you do all the time? I'm like, whatever the hell I want to. And so for a while you do that. And then now I'm on to what's coming into my life and people that I've been affected by and become friends with, and really finding my true purpose on this planet and my true passion. And when you can help somebody feel better by just initiating a healthy intervention, whether that's doing breath work or being cognizant of what you're eating, or trying out our functional mushrooms, our Umbo mushroom products, whatever that is, if you can help somebody do that, that's just a gift. I mean, that's really something really special that I hold near and dear, and realize that football was just a small portion of what I did to get myself to the ability to have this ability to be heard.
Yeah. It's what was really cool is after your interview with Craig, we talked for about 20 minutes about the mushroom space, and I think the preconceived notions that I had certainly was they're psychedelics. I don't want to have a bad trip. Like, I don't know if I want to do that. And then you kind of educated us on on, these can be, kind of a pick-me-up and not necessarily a psychedelic. It can be good for your health. And then in addition, pro athlete recovery as well.
Yeah.
Just all the little details. How did you stumble about that and get into this?
Well, towards, let me see how many years I was out of the league, about 6 years. I'd had both my hips operated on to reattach my labrums and do some work where I'm missing some cartilage. So I did that. I moved back to Colorado. Right then, cannabis got legalized or decriminalized, and I was able to now not have to worry about it, and I started kind of using cannabis to manage my pain and understand, the things that were coming up post-career. Near that time was when Junior Seau took his life, and all of a sudden CTE comes into the forefront. This is when they decided to create the term CTE. So you have all these thoughts going through your head of like, oh my God, should I have done this? What's going on? What am I going to be like? Is this going to happen to me? And my anger issues, because, a lot of things happening. So I got an opportunity to work with Charlotte's Web, who was doing the real work for these mothers with children with severe seizure disorders that were risking prosecution by giving their child a oil from the hemp plant that grows on ditch banks in Nebraska and was classified with marijuana because of an uneducated white man that decided to lump them all together and say these are illegal.
Right.
These kids were living because of this. They were not in a catatonic state and seizing. They were actually present and thriving. So the players that were suffering, the guys that I knew were having trouble with their bodies, started advocating for this. That was my first step into homeopathic kind of holistic medicine, even though my mother raised me, gave me garlic and honey if I was getting sick, or echinacea if I felt the cold coming on. And we tofu before tofu was the real craze and stuff. So I knew what you put in your body is important, and that's where I met Del Jolly. And you meet people sometimes, and you guys have experienced this, where there's this attraction, like, whoa, who is this guy? Like, there's just something there. And so he caught my eye. I obviously caught his. A couple years into it, I left Charlotte's Web. He still was working for them, and he comes to me and says, yo, we got to check out the mushrooms. These things are pretty amazing. I'm reading about this. He gave me some tinctures right before the pandemic. We realized, like, a category that was unregulated, people were saying, here's a mushroom product, and what was in it? Very little mushrooms. So we wanted to come up with a product similar to what Charlotte's Web did. Like, they're the best. They're one of the best products you can find. I want to have what's considered the most potent and compound-rich product that you can put out there. And so now that's what we're doing. We're bringing Umbo to the people that are ready to hear it, ready to listen, and are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And what a fun thing to do, because, like I said, when someone comes to me and says, man, you made a difference in my life, you helped me change my life for the better, that's a true gift.
Absolutely.
You know what you did, changing for the better, was this Arizona Cardinals organization way back when in 1998. This was a team that came, a decade previous to that. We got poor Saul Bookman sitting in those hot stands at Sun Devil Stadium.
Hot.
And you finally gave him something to cheer for. And we were fortunate enough to have Frank Sanders on our show for a while, and he had so many great stories from that. What are some of the stories that we maybe haven't heard about that team and its run to the postseason?
Yeah, that 98 team was special. I got there in 97. I've shared my story a little bit with a few people of Philly when my first action on the 2-yard line going out in Vet Stadium, and we went 98 yards. I got in the huddle and said, let's take this, you can say it. Let's take this motherfucker 98 yards. And the guys perked up and looked at me, and they obviously hadn't heard someone come in with that fire. And I'm like, man, I'm here. This is it. I'm ready. Let's go. I've worked. This is my dream. I'm in my dream right now, living it. We took it 98 and scored. We finished pretty hot that end of that year. And going into 98, we didn't know, but we had a lot of great players. We struggled a little bit. And someone asked me earlier today, they're like, man, wouldn't you love to play in this systems today where they really air it out and you doing all this? I'm like, no, I played in one. And in 98, Mark Trestman, we decided to go no huddle. For 8 games, I threw for close to 2,500 yards in 8 games.
Wow.
you put that through a whole season, I'm going well over 4,000 yards when that isn't very common even in today in this aerial landscape we're living in. Why? Because I wasn't throwing 25 passes behind the line of scrimmage or 1-yarders. I was throwing it, gashing fools, throwing dig routes and comebacks and deep hooks and deep posts and deep post corners and like rolling out and running. Man, we were killing it.
Yeah.
And that was so much fun. But what was crazy about that year, how we finished it was crazy. 4 wins in a row, cardiac cards. But in November, Rob Moore, me, Coach McGinnis, they put us in a van on a Saturday, and we went door to door knocking on people's doors saying, please vote for Prop 301.
Oh, yeah.
Please vote for the stadium.
I remember that.
I stood on a rock down there in Ahwatukee off of I think it was Warner Elliott Loop. There's a church there where it was a polling center during the day of votes. I stood on a rock when people came by. I'm like, hey, make sure you vote yes on 301. What are you doing here, Jake? Like, we need that stadium.
Yeah.
Guess what? It passed.
Yeah.
So we have I feel like that 98 team that has kind of been forgotten because Kurt Warner came in and made it to the Super Bowl.
Us, though.
No, I know. Thank you for that. But I think maybe by the organization somewhat has not been necessarily given that respect because, Pat was on that team.
Yeah.
And so that's the only player that played on that 98 team, and they really use him sometimes a little bit too much as like Pat Tillman. Pat would even come back and be like, yo, can you fucking lay off a little bit?
Right.
Come on, man. I mean,
it's 53-man
give me a break
roster
for a second there. Yeah, so we did have – that was a big year. They're the Arizona Cardinals, not the Los Angeles Cardinals, because of that season. So that was big.
I have to ask you one question because to this day I've always wanted to ask you this, and I forgot to ask you last time. The Cowboys game at home that year, you guys were down 35-7, and then you just came back. And the last play of the game, corner route or a fade route, Rob Moore, it's right there, and blatant as all day pass interference.
I underthrew that ball, though, but it was pass interference for sure.
They had a picture of it in Sports Illustrated the next week. What was your reaction to that? Did you say anything to the ref? I've always wanted to know that.
Yeah, I mean, you're yelling at them. They don't hear you. They blank it out. They've made the call. There's nothing you can do at some point. But, that was really, I think, I heard a lot of fans that tell me that story of that game when they finally were like, hey, wait a second, this team's got something. And I can't help but I was part of that. And I was part of that also with like Kwame Lassiter, with Ronnie McKinnon, with Jameer Miller, with Lomas Brown, with Larry Sinners, with Rob Moore. I mean, we had some ballers.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, most of them were gone that next year, after 98. And that was tough because you want to tell me Larry Sinners can be replaced by a fullback out of Nebraska? No offense to Joel Makovica, great football player, but you were not Larry Sinners.
Right.
Larry Sinners was at one point, I think, top 3 in receiving receptions all time before this whole aerial attack came. Why is Larry Sinners not in the Hall of Fame is what I want to know.
Seriously.
Why are we not talking about Larry Sinners not being in the Hall of Fame? Is it because we played for the Cardinals? That ain't right, because had he played for some other team that was in it all the time, he'd definitely be a Hall of Famer. So there's I don't like that. That's not the right message for me. Larry Sinners is one of the greatest football players that ever stepped on the field.
Well, I can tell you unequivocally what that 98 team did. It may be easy when you've got a culture like a San Francisco, a Kansas City in today's modern age, to be a draft pick, to be a free agent, and say, okay, we're going to the Super Bowl. We're in the playoffs every year. To be the first team in the history of the Arizona Cardinal franchise to come to the desert and win and be a winner and win a playoff game, I mean, that means more to a lot of people. And to start the momentum. And I know that it was separated by, 8 years until they went to the playoffs again, but it's always the most difficult to be the first and to break through. And so that we are very appreciative.
Thank you, man. I went to the ASU Sun Devils because I'd never really heard about them. In the 5th grade, Jay Bradley got kicked out of, his teacher made him go home because he had a Sun Devils shirt, and the teacher said, or 4th grade, you can't have the Devils on your shirt, the devil on your shirt here. And that's the only time I ever heard of the ASU Sun Devils. And I wanted to make an impression and leave that place knowing it got better, and I sure as hell did. That 96, 97 Rose Bowl, that was amazing. Cardinals, same kind of thing. First playoff victory in 50 years. wow.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm grateful for the Bidwells. Mike and I still are in contact. I saw him recently. It was good to see him and say hey. I even gave him some of my mushroom products. You know, I'm like, you know,
nice.
You got like, I know you bought 2 jumbo jets, but you got 52 Lamborghinis. What are you putting in your Lamborghinis, Mike? Like, this is your moneymaker, your players. So you want to get them feeling right, and doing right, and functioning good. Let's talk. So Mike's great. Mike's doing the best he can. You know, Kyler Murray is a very talented young man. You know, is he coming into the leadership part? You know, because it's one thing to be able to do dynamic stuff, but can you get guys around you to believe and to want to be better because of you? That's really the thing good quarterbacks do. Awesome. That dude right there, number 15 for Kansas City, like, that's what you see in the fourth quarter when he needs the defense to get the ball back. You don't see him sitting on the sideline like this, hoping that he isn't the scapegoat. Yeah. He's up telling his D, let's go. Why? Because he wants it, and that's just infectious, you know. And that's how I played. So it's hard. Both these guys, they're great competitors. It's going to be a fun game this weekend.
I think that's happening now in the facility in Tempe and in Glendale. You know, I think the lead guy, Jonathan Gannon, now empowering that position in Kyler Murray. I mean, his first game back from tearing his ACL, he's getting him the ball with under 2 minutes left, and he says, I'm going to take it all the way down. Just kind of similar to your story, going 98 yards. And you love to hear that, and you love to see, you know, a guy play that position at a high level like you did here in the Valley of the Sun. Highly encourage everybody to check out The Focus with Jake Plummer and Craig Morgan. It's an essential watch for any Valley sports fan, even beyond that. Jake, man, thank you so much for your time.
Jake. Yeah,
appreciate
thank you. Can I mention one thing?
Absolutely.
Go to getumbo.com.
Yes.
We're doing a 21-day challenge because we believe at Umbo consistency over time equals results. And, you know, these mushrooms are not something you take one time and go, wow. You know, it's like eating broccoli. It's good for you, right?
Yeah.
But you don't eat broccoli and run to the gym and start busting your personal best, breaking your records.
Yeah.
But through time, you know it's good for you. Same thing here. We're going to do a 21-day challenge. You can sign up on our website, get on the app, get some movement exercises by me, some videos, some meditations, some good stuff just to try to get a routine, as I'm even trying to have the discipline myself to get into routines, because I know every time I do it in the morning when I get up and do my work, my day just goes smoother. So that's what we're doing. Check us out. Thank you for the time. Good to see you guys down here. Always good.
Appreciate
you coming through, Jake. Thank you so much.
Getumbo.com.